Good evening. It's FamKam, and tonight we're going to be exploring a staple of my childhood. One of my favorite games growing up was The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Now, I've said many times that Link to the Past is my favorite Zelda game, and I stand by that. But that's because I think it is a better overall made game because it's less predictable, it's more challenging, there's a bit more variety involved in my opinion. But Ocarina is the game that I've played the most by far and is the game that got me into the Zelda series. I actually haven't played Link to the Past until I was an adult, surprisingly. But what we're going to be going through in this video is the player's guide. See, back in my day, I sound old when I say that. Back in my day, we did not just look up walkthroughs on Zelda Dungeon or the internet in general. I mean, we kind of had that. We kind of had walkthroughs on the internet, but it was not what we typically did. We got player's guides in the form of a book. And this was through Nintendo Power, which was a monthly magazine all about Nintendo news, Nintendo walkthroughs, Nintendo cheats, all that jazz. And when I first owned Ocarina of Time, like many, I was stuck. I was stuck at the Water Temple, which is like a little over halfway through the game. Almost everybody was stuck at the Water Temple. It was cripplingly difficult. So I thought, I want to get the player's guide. And I asked my mom to subscribe me to Nintendo Power, and it came with a free player's guide. That was this. So she placed the order, and then it took so long for them to deliver the player's guide that I ended up beating the game twice on my own before it came in. Pretty crazy. But it wasn't a waste because A, I got a subscription to Nintendo Power, and unfortunately I lost every single Nintendo Power magazine I've ever had. Maybe it's stored somewhere at my parents' house. I don't know. But fortunately I still have this. It's pretty beat up because I spilled water on it like multiple times, which is why the paper is a bit hardened and is why it's coming apart on the corner. But also I had this for 23, 24 years, give or take. So in this video, we're going to be going through this book, not down to the detail, but like kind of a Cliff Notes version of it, if you will. So the first page is a map of Hyrule and a message from the creator, Shigeru Miyamoto, who also created Mario, with his signature printed on it. It kind of looks like he wrote in it, but I can't really tell if that's actually his writing or if it's printed. But either way, it's a really nice touch. It's dated October 10th, 1998, with the drawing of Link as he would appear in Link to the Past, the way his hair is. So I will read what it says. It says, "Hi, I'm Shigeru Miyamoto. Thank you for playing so many of our fun and challenging games. We tried to write this guide to give you the strategy you need to complete your adventure, but we also wanted to discover much of the game on your own. A great deal of thought and care went into creating this game so that players could find more than just challenges, but also a lot of fun. This is the best how-to guide for those of you who are looking for some strategies to complete your adventure. With this book, you will discover the secrets of every nook and cranny of the land of Hyrule, as you are one of the Hylians. Also, we hope the level of fun and challenging experience in the game exceeds your expectations. If you get tired in the middle of your journey, you can play the ocarina whenever you want. Try out its very cool options, such as halftone or whole tone shift vibratos. Please see the fold out poster for more details on making your own melodies. Good luck. And that's one of my favorite parts of the game. You could play a musical instrument by pressing certain buttons, play certain notes. I figured out how to play Star Wars on the ocarina. So this guide has 4 parts to it. Prelude to a Quest, which highlights some of the past games and the lore of Zelda, and it gives you a map. Second chapter is A Hero is Born, which goes through the childhood phase of the game, and then Hero of Time, which covers the adult part of the game, meaning when Link's an adult, not like, anyway. And then Hidden in Hyrule, it shows you where all the hidden treasures are, most of which you don't really need to complete the game, but like little bonuses and stuff to help you beat the game. And also, if you're a completionist, you're going to want to get all these things. Legends of Zelda. So this talks about past Zelda games, as in games that came out prior to Ocarina of Time. It has some brief descriptions of them, as well as a timeline of the games. The Legend of Zelda, the first game on the NES, as well as its sequel, The Adventure of Link, and my personal favorite, A Link to the Past on Super Nintendo, and Link's Awakening on the Game Boy, which eventually got a remake on the Switch. And here's the backstory it has for Link to the Past right here. Strangely enough, I'm not seeing one for Link's Awakening. It just goes straight to Ocarina of Time, where it has the ocarina and the 3 spiritual stones that you collect when you're a kid before you become an adult. And this page right here, showing all the controls mapped out for the game. Of course, with the C buttons, it all depends on what items you assign them to. You cannot jump in this game by pressing a button. You just run off a cliff and Link automatically jumps. And if there's a small enough gap, he'll make it across. Also shows you how to grab, throw, and drop, climb and drop, push and pull, talk to people, check signs, dive when you're swimming, all that jazz. Combat training. This entire page highlights all the different techniques that you could use in combat, from swordplay to different maneuvers to defend yourself. Helps you formulate a bit of a strategy when you're fighting. Hylian lore. So this shows you differences between when you're a child and when you're an adult, and the world surrounding you. Because when you become an adult, it becomes a dystopian world. It also shows you that in this game, sometimes it's daytime and sometimes it's nighttime, and it slowly progresses between the two, which at the time was kind of a new concept in games. It wasn't very common at the time. And it also shows you that there's a bunch of secrets, including Great Fairy's Fountain. It also talks about bottle usage, where you can store certain things in a bottle, and you must reuse it as much as you can. Talks about your friend Navi, or Navi, however you want to pronounce it. I say Navi because I've been saying Navi since I was little. But a lot of people say Navi because it's short for navigation. A lot of people think that Navi is annoying because she nags a lot, but I personally think she's adorable. Prelude to a Quest. So in Prelude to a Quest, we have the whole map of Hyrule. Nice artwork of that. But then you open pages here, and you get another version of the map that labels everything. You also have sheet music for the ocarina. They actually want you to write them down as you learn them, so I did. As you can tell, I screwed up when writing the Bolero Fire and had to cross it out. There's also space for the Scarecrow song, which you actually create your own song and then use it to call a scarecrow that you have to use the hookshot to get certain places. But I never wrote in here because I knew that it would change every time I play it, so I didn't bother. And on this side, it shows you the different ways to play each musical note. It is on a C major scale or an A minor scale. No sharps or flats. And it shows you how to play the Kakariko Village theme. When I told a friend that, he said that you can also play the Star Wars theme, which blew my mind. As I mentioned earlier, now I know how to do that. All kinds of songs you can play. And here we have the item chart. Shows you all the different kinds of items that you can get throughout the game. It shows you where you get them and when you get them. Adult Link, Young Link, or both, depending on the color that surrounds the item. The color border, that is. A hero is born. So this little chapter walks you through the childhood phase of the game. I won't be going through this in detail, of course. That would take way too long. So I'm not going to bore you with that. If you play through this game, you can always look up Zelda Dungeon. In fact, I'll link to Zelda Dungeon in the description, specifically the Ocarina of Time walkthrough. But basically, you start in Kakariko Village, then make your way to Hyrule Castle after solving the puzzle in the Deku Tree. Speak to Zelda, then go to Lon Lon Ranch, and then go to Kakariko Village. Then you must speak to your old childhood friend Saria to learn a song that she wrote so that you can use it to please the Gorons, so that they'll let you into Dongo's Cavern, be a boss there. They give you a spiritual stone. And then you seek the last spiritual stone, Zora's River. I forgot to mention the first spiritual stone you get is from the Deku Tree before you go to Hyrule Castle, but I digress. You go see the Zoras, where these fish-like people. And you have to go to Lake Hylia to get a letter to show the king, and then he lets you inside Lord Jabu Jabu's belly. He's not been feeling well. Take care of the problem there. Rescue Princess Ruto, the king's daughter, and voila. Now you have all spiritual stones, and then you could enter the sacred realm. You become an adult, but unfortunately the villain of the game, Ganondorf, has taken over Hyrule. So now the rest of your mission is to rescue Hyrule from his tyrannical rule. So you have to go through a bunch of different temples. There's the Forest Temple, the Fire Temple, the dreaded Water Temple. The Water Temple actually isn't that hard once you know what to do, but it's very difficult to figure out what to do. At least it was for me and everyone I knew. You go through that. And then you go back to Kakariko Village to take care of the problem with the Shadow Temple. This is obviously super abridged. I'm not giving a full walkthrough, but like giving the general mapping of the game. And then you go to Gerudo Valley, where Ganondorf is from. Go all the way across the desert and make your way to the Spirit Temple, where his second in command actually helps you. And then you go through that and you have everybody rescued. All the sages. I forgot to mention, I'm abridging this too much. There are 6 sages that built the temple time and guard it and everything. You have to rescue them. And once you do, you go to Ganon's castle, which is in place of where Hyrule Castle was. And you defeat him. Hopefully. So now that we quickly skim through the plot without giving too much away, let's go to the last chapter, Hidden in Hyrule, showing what kind of goodies you can find. So, this game has some masks, nowhere near the amount that its sequel Majora's Mask has, obviously. But there's this place called the Happy Mask Shop in downtown Hyrule. But they don't sell you a mask. They loan you a mask. You sell it to somebody else and you bring the money back there, and then they let you keep your own copy of the mask eventually. But you can only have one of those masks at a time. Really interesting business model. But you start with a Keaton mask. This guard protecting the road up Death Mountain wants this mask for his son. But when you finally get it to him, he keeps it for himself. Kind of odd. And then once you get that, you get a skull mask, which is supposed to give to a skull kid in Lost Woods. And then third, you have a spooky mask. Just a wooden ghost-like mask that you give to a kid in the graveyard of Kakariko Village. And last, you get a bunny hood, which has flopping bunny ears. And you give it to a guy who's going for a run across Hyrule Field. He runs very fast, so it's hard to catch him. And you sell him the bunny hood, which is interesting because in Majora's Mask, when you have the bunny hood, it makes you run a lot faster. If only that was the case in Ocarina, it would make catching the runner a lot faster. And after all that, you get the Mask of Truth. With that, you can go to these different stones with the same engraving as the Mask of Truth, and they tell you really odd, secret pieces of Ocarina of Time lore. And, of course, there's more masks you can get. You could get a Goron mask, Sora mask, and Gerudo mask. Trader Link. This is one of my favorite side quests in all of gaming. You trade a bunch of different items in a secrets so that you can end up with the Biggoron sword. It is this gigantic sword that is more powerful than the legendary Master Sword. Although when you're fighting Ganon, don't use the Biggoron sword because you will not kill him with that. You actually do need to use the Master Sword. But yeah, you start out by talking to a girl at Kakariko Village. She gives you an egg. You hatch it. And then she gives you a blue chicken named Kojiro. You have to give it to her brother, who's in the Lost Woods. Then he gives you a weird mushroom that he wants you to give you to this witch at Kakariko Village that he has some kind of beef with. And you only have a few minutes to do it because it'll spoil. You're not allowed to use warping because if you do, it just spoils. So the trick is to get Epona, the horse. You call her, ride her to Kakariko Village, and then find the witch, give her the mushroom. Then she makes into an odd potion that she wants you to give back to the guy, but he's gone. So instead, you give this to a girl that is standing where he was. And then she gives you a poacher saw, which belongs to a guy in Gerudo Valley. And I notice I said Gerudo and now in Gerudo before. I don't know the actual pronunciation, so bear with me. Then he gives you a broken Biggoron sword. Now you can get a Biggoron sword without doing all this trading, known as a giant's knife, but after 100 uses, it breaks. So it looks like one of these, but this particular broken sword can be forged into one that will never break. So you take it atop Death Mountain and find the Biggoron that is much better at crafting swords than the guy who crafts the giant's knife. But the problem is, something's wrong with his eyes. So he gives you a prescription to take to King Zora for a special ingredient needed to make eye drops. Then King Zora gives you an eyeball frog. This freaking frog cracks me up. Look at this guy. this cute dumb little face he's making. I love it. But anyway, he's frozen preserved, so you're timed to get to this professor at Lake Hylia that can make this frog into eye drops. And once he does, you're timed once again to rush all the way up Death Mountain. And it's seemingly gruel because Lake Hylia is the very southwest end of the entire map. And Death Mountain is the very northeast end of the entire map. All the way atop Death Mountain. You have like 4 minutes to get there, I think. So Epona, again, is really helpful. But it's honestly not that hard to make it across. And then after that, put side drops in, and you get a claim check. So you have to wait 3 days for him to make the sword, and then he gives you the sword. And you're done. You have a Biggoron sword. And now you're unstoppable. The downside of this sword is, one, can't fight Ganon with it. You can, but it won't truly do damage to him. He'll appear to be damaged, but you'll never be able to kill him with this sword. And two, you can't use your shield because you have to have both hands occupied with it because it's so heavy. But also a secret little trick with the claim check, you don't actually have to wait 3 days. If you learn the Sun song, you could play that to instantly make it night, play it again, instantly make it day. Do that a few times, 3 days pass, and then you could get the sword. You're welcome. Heartfelt help. So this is a chapter that shows you all the places where you can get a piece of heart, and every 4 pieces of heart you collect is an extra heart container for your health, to extend your health capacity. Magic beans. So, if I remember correctly, you can get up to 10 magic beans in the entire game. There's this guy by Zora's River that sells you them. You pay 10 rupees for the first one, 20 rupees for the second, 30 rupees for the third, and so on and so forth. Buy them all as a kid, plant them all as a kid. Ah, yes, this confirms. I did get the pricings right. It has that chart right there. But you plant them all as a kid, and then when you become an adult, they are fully sprouted and fully functional when you step on them, and they're like magic elevators, take you to other places. It's pretty neat. Gold Skulltulas. So Skulltulas are spiders with skull-shaped bodies, and there's 100 gold Skulltulas in the game, and the more you get, the more bonuses you can unlock. You could get things like the Stone of Agony, Adult Wallet, which holds more rupees, eventually a Giant Wallet, which holds even more rupees, 200 and 500 respectively. Stone of Agony, if you equip a Rumble Pack, see in those days, if you want the controller to vibrate, you had to plug in a Rumble Pack in the controller so that it would vibrate. And if you equip that, the Stone of Agony makes the controller vibrate when you're near a secret, which is pretty useful. You also get a bunch of Bomb Chew, a piece of heart, and eventually a gold rupee, which is worth 200 rupees. But imagine getting all 100 gold Skulltulas and then being given a gold rupee and you already have your wallet full. You just wasted a gold rupee because that's how that game works. It is what it is. And this shows you where all of the gold Skulltulas are. And we have a page that shows you where the fairy fountains are. And with these fairy fountains, there's like red fairies that you can capture in a bottle. If you have a red fairy in a bottle, then if you fall in combat, that red fairy will automatically pop out and revive you and refill your health entirely. It's like an extra life, which is really useful. When you're about to fight a boss, it's good to stock up on red fairies. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this and maybe got a bit of a nostalgia trip if you played this game. Or if you haven't played this game, I highly recommend checking it out. It is amazing. Again, I'll link the Zelda Dungeon walkthrough of this game down below in the description. Although I personally recommend not using walkthroughs unless you're truly stuck going through the game, and maybe using walkthroughs to help you find all the items you missed. That's how I like to approach Zelda games, because I do like having a bunch of surprise as much as possible. That's why I skim through the plot, so you can still have that element of surprise. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, leave a comment down below. I love interacting with y'all. And subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell so you don't miss another video. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. And as always, stay chill. Have a good night.